Alright guys, hi there and welcome to another video. Um, I'm going to show you guys the basic of yet another perspective technique that we use to duplicate and multiply um, faces, edges and points into perspective, or to how to calculate the correct for shortening. Alright, so let's get to it. So I did a video before this one that covered the basics of dividing a rectangle and how to divide or how to find center point and then duplicate the same dimension box. And I talked about how to multiply, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about mirroring. Okay. So the basic concept is that you are actually you can stay in control of the drawing by knowing what's happening in an orthographic view, like a 2D view, like flat, something that has no perspective applied to this, and then by dividing this in proportions so that we can always do the same thing even if we are working on perspective. Alright, so using this bounding box, which is this rectangle, we are able to divide this in sections, find center point without using any rulers. Alright, and then we can use this to actually manipulate. We can use this as tools to manipulate the objects in space, or the construction that we want to do for these for these drawings and setups. All right. So the first thing was to subdivide the bounding box or the rectangle, and then you duplicate. All right. So this is actually technique number one. Okay. To multiply and to go even further, it's quite simple, and you can do this in all the directions. Alright, so you can go up and down. You can do that side, this side, and even into z-space, into depth. So now I've already established the center line of this. So I'm just going to extend this line, alright? And I know in perspective that these three would point to a vanishing point, which is important. So now again, I'm just going to go through the center, and I'm going to come up. So now I'm actually multiplying this box on this in this direction. Alright, if I want to go to the top, I just extend these lines. Now I have to find center of this fold line. Okay, so this line becomes my fold line. There's center, and I'm going to carry this line through here and duplicate to the top. Alright, so what I can do in 2D space, I can do in 3D. Alright, so this is where it's also important to think about, we use boxes to draw in perspective and to get like the idea of dimension and all those things. But I found that it's actually a little bit more easier to think about planes. Alright, so faces, like these sides. So if you work on a perspective grid and you actually start thinking about, listen, okay, I'm going to draw this plane, alright, and this represents the floor or the bottom of the box. Okay, and then if I actually use verticals and I extend these lines, and I extend these lines up, what I'm essentially doing is I am building a box, but think of this as actually taking this plane and duplicating it and letting it offset on top of this one. Alright. Okay, and by having these sides, suddenly you've got these planes that's been created. So this box is like 6 planes that you can use. And if this is one of the planes and this is the technique that we can use on these planes, I can do this in all the right directions all along this box. Doesn't matter, as long as I can create a plane and I can subdivide this, I can use all these techniques that we cover. All right, and covered. So there's previous videos on this. So now what I have is I've got essentially this rectangle, or this bounding box. Okay, think of it also as bounding boxes, and I just put them together to form this box in space. And this is actually a placeholder for dimension, and I can use this to actually calculate the correct foreshortening into perspective. All right. Okay, so just think about this as being part of it's a box, but it's a plane that actually is like mirrored and duplicated and all those things. All right, so the next thing that we did was, so now we covered duplication, multiply. Let's look at mirroring. All right, so mirroring to me is, I think of this option. Okay, so I like 3D modeling programs and all those things. I'll show you now something that I've set up. But let's say you've got this button, all right, and you can choose to put this on or off. Okay, on or off, and it's a symmetry button. Okay, so you've got this option that you can have to have symmetry or not. All right, this is just like a way to think of this. So if I want to mirror something, immediately I think about symmetry. Okay, and if I think of symmetry, I don't. It's not only on one plane. I think of this as being something that's three-dimensional. Right. So this symmetry line, I can put it down like this. All right. So it can be like this bottom of this box. It can be into perspective. Okay, and it can be on this side, this plane, and it can be straight, or it can even be like this. Okay, same thing. It's just this line is to the top. Basically, the symmetry line can work. I think of it as an element that I can manipulate in 3D space using the XYZ system. All right, and I'll show you guys now how that works. All right, so the next thing that I want to do is, okay, so I think of this line as the symmetry line. So let's just first just draw this line. So symmetry is what happens this side, I can do this side. All right. So if symmetry is on, immediately I know that I can actually just design one of these sides. All right. And then in 3D software and stuff, the other side will be rendered directly as you work, or you have the option to select it and say mirror into this direction, and then you will get the exact thing copied over. All right. So if we want to do this on a 2D surface, or when we start to draw, we want to be able to do this as well. Okay, so it's just a little bit more hard labor for us to do this, but it's possible. So the main idea is the symmetry line. Okay, so duplication was that I also think of this line as the symmetry line, or the fold line. But what happened with the duplication is it's just, this is against each other, these two boxes. All right, and as I just duplicate basically the grid or the object, but it's still one thing, or it's close to it, or it's against each other. The mirroring thing, or the offset idea, works a little bit different. Okay, it's the same concept as duplicating, but now I can have this line, and I can actually, where in duplicating I can have this on this fold line. All right, and then if symmetry is on, it will actually do the whole thing, find center and duplicate over. But I can also, with the symmetry line, place the object here. All right, and then what we want is, we want to take this guy over to this side, but this space, all these things need to be symmetrical. All right, so this is the technique that I'm going to show you guys now. and you can even put something there and it would be mirrored to this side. Alright, if this was turned around, and it doesn't matter in which direction. So now let's say I took this is an axis, let's call this the y-axis. Alright, now I'm going to do a mirror line on the, let's say, x-axis. Okay. So now if I place something here, it gets mirrored to that side. Alright, so this line is important, and you can actually have it going into perspective as well, and that's the nice thing about these tools, these techniques. So if I'm going to place an object there, I want to be able to have that object in the correct foreshortening to be somewhere here. Alright. Okay, so let's calculate this. Let's not guess. So the basic concept is, okay, moving on from here, we multiplied last time, is that we've got this plane. Alright, so let's do one that, let's just do a flat one. 2D, orthographic, no perspective applied. Alright, so this is our bounding box. Okay, bounding box means that you can draw this box around organic shapes and other shapes and all those things. Alright, so I'm going to extend these lines because I'm mirroring, so creating my offset. And then I want to place this mirror line somewhere. Okay, so I want to choose where this mirror line is going to be. So I can have it close to there or here, it doesn't matter. It's up to you. So I'm going to put this mirror line here. Okay. And now what I want to do is I want to go back to stage 1, where we're going to subdivide this rectangle and find the center point. Right? And then I'm going to draw a horizontal line through the center point and follow it through. Right? Okay. Knowing that these guys, when in perspective, will actually converge to a vanishing point. Right. So now, instead of using this center for this box to duplicate, which would look something like this, okay, there's your standard duplication, alright, but this is not mirroring. Mirroring is, now I want to take this side and this side, alright, this edge, and I want to go through the mirror line, but through the center. Okay, so I'm using the same technique, but it's a little bit different. So let's take this edge, go through the center line, through the center line and up. Alright, so you can see this distance and this distance is the same. Alright, so let's do this edge. So this edge also through this center point on the mirror line. I draw this line up. Oops. Draw this line up, and there I've mirrored this object across the symmetry line. Alright. So this I can also do up and down, so I can actually take this symmetry line and put it here, okay, and then I can do this whole construction going up. I will actually take this box to this side. I can place that line here, this side to go to the left, doesn't matter. Okay, so this is the basic concept. Now you just have to find ways and practice this enough so that you can see the opportunity when it presents itself, where and how to use this. Alright, okay, so based on that, the next thing that I want to show you guys is, because all these things actually build on top of each other. It's first divide, subdivision, then duplicate, then multiply, and then with this we are actually able to just think about the box a little bit different and then think of offset. Alright, so now I've got this plane, and we want the same plane to be on top or below. So let's in this case we're going to like mirror down or offset down, but the same dimension. Alright, so you can do this by going to the vanishing point and doing construction lines and further, but it's the way of thinking about this that makes it a little bit different than just constructing a box. what we want to do is, I want to take this plane, I want to mirror it and offset it so that perhaps we had like a ground plane, okay? Well, let's say this is on the ground plane, and we want to, it's like a magic carpet, and now it got the power and it just hovered up, right? So we want to make this same idea flipped. Okay, same box. We just want to move up. So again, in the direction I want to go. So this is where knowing grids and your perspective grids is very important, so that you know how this works, how to go up, how to navigate. Okay, and then I'm going to choose a height, and this is going to, this is a point there, and now I'm just going to go to all the sides, connect all the points on this 2-point perspective grid, and now there you've got your plane, exact dimensions, and it's hovering. So this, it almost seems as if this is okay, but this is just a box created on 2-point perspective. But the idea was, how I approached this was, I want this plane, I want to suddenly let it float. The other thing that I can think about this is, let's say you've got a light source, alright, and it's from the top down, okay, so this is just the easy one, but you can think of this. So now the cast shadow of this object, alright, this would be the cast shadow, is if this is direct sunlight, not local light. But so what in fact I did was, I quickly constructed something so that will resemble a cast shadow. Okay, so now this object cast shadow now. Okay, that's for a direct light downward. Alright, so that's the basic mirroring thing. So you can go horizontally, vertically, basically in 3D space. You are not limited with the mirror line. You can place it like this, you can place it like that, you can place it like this, and what you do on the one side will actually happen on the other side. Well, not happen, you have to construct this, but it's easy to go from here and put this whole thing in perspective as well. So if you have a plane now, alright, now you've got this flat plane, and you want to mirror it to that side, so you just want a little bit distance in between, but you want the same dimension. So your mirror line actually follows the rule of the perspective grid, going to the left vanishing point, going to the right, as with these, and then you just do the construction. So the important part is to find center there. So I'm using this rectangle, find center point, alright, and then the only difference is I have to take these two edges across this line. So edge 1 is going to be somewhere there, and edge 2 something way back there. Alright, okay. So 1, 2, go. Okay, so the next thing that I quickly want to show you guys as well is, now we took this idea of this bounding box, alright? And now we've learned or practiced a few techniques with this, okay? So we can do things with this. We can actually start navigating a little bit around the scene, alright, in a controlled way, and that's the difference. We didn't guess anything. We don't guess in this with these things. We actually know, alright, and that's what we want to do. So now we've got this bounding box, but we don't want to, let's say we want to have a curve or something, right? Or we just want to do something organic, things like that. So we can do the same thing, alright? So I'm going to do a curve. Not sure how difficult this is going to be to find the points now, but let's do this. Okay. So this is a curve, and I want to actually, now I want to start thinking about, I can duplicate, I can multiply, I can mirror and offset. Okay, so these are the tools that I have at my disposal. So let's do this, and I'm going to take this bounding box and I'm going to duplicate it to the side, alright, so that I can actually find the center of this curve. I want to make this curve symmetry, so I'm going to put symmetry on. Let's say it's that one. Alright, so symmetry is on, so this line here suddenly, if I go to the right, has become a very important line. Okay. So this is going to be just a standard duplication method, so it's going to be on this fold that the mirroring is happening. Okay, it's not like I'm not going to put the mirror line here like in the example that I just showed you guys. So let's just duplicate. Alright, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to subdivide this rectangle, right? Because we know this, we can actually count on these subdivisions. And then I'm going to take a horizontal line and pull it through there. And I'm going to take this bounding box and I'm going to take it over to this side. Right. Okay. The next thing that I want to do is, okay, now I want to start this curve is actually a lot of points that's actually just connected. Right? So I want to start finding some of the important points here, the ones with the dramatic changes to take over, so that I can actually have these points and put a controlled line through there. So I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to see, oh man, okay, so I've got a point here and this is where my curve starts actually. So how am I going to take this line, this point, alright, which is there, and transfer it to this side. Okay. So the one thing that we're going to do is we're going to use the duplication method, the one that we just used. Alright, so I'm going to add a little construction. Okay, and I'm going to take this point and carry it over. So find center, okay, find that center line, just going to extend this line and carry this point over through that center point and come down. Alright, so now I've got my first point. Right. So I would like to have this point as well because this is actually where it turns. Alright, and perhaps this point where this line crosses. Okay, so it's so easy to get this intersection, this point. It's so easy to get it on this side because all I have to do is I have to cross this rectangle, this one as well, and then I've got this point and I'm just going to draw a horizontal line to this side and find this point because they cross the same axis. This is the same bounding box, and what I do here I can do here. Right. So now I've got this point and that point. Right. This point is going to be a little bit more difficult to find because you want to use lines that you know you can do. You want to correctly divide the bounding box, the rectangle, and then use those points and carry them over. Right. So for instance, let's say I can see that there's 2 points here, but I won't be able to tell where they are here. But I can find one point by just drawing a middle line through the center point because this is easy. I can do this. Right. And now I can take this point where they intersect. I can carry this over. Whoops, what happened? And I can carry this over and find the point just above that center point there. Alright, so now I've got 1 point, 2 points. I would like to have this one as well. Alright, so we'll see just how we're going to get this one now. So what I'm going to do to get this one is I'm going to take a line that goes from center and actually goes through this line and hits a spot just there. Alright. So this line I can actually connect back to this line. So this is an easy line for me to have. And then I'm going to cross this line over, and there I found that one. Alright. So now you can actually start seeing this shape. Okay. So perhaps it would be nice to have a point there as well. Okay. You see if I draw my horizontal line, I still need to have another line showing me where it is. Okay, but now the same way that I've just done, I can't do this to this top because I don't know where this is. I won't be able to do this side. I would need a construction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go down to the middle point and create for myself this little rectangle here. And I'm going to find center. I'm going to carry this line over and up. And then I've just used the duplication method again to find this point there. So now you can see I've got this nice curve already, right here, and I will be able confidently to draw this curve. All right, so let's look for something around. Okay, I've got that point as well. So I'm going to do the turn, and it would be nice to have a point on this curve as well. All right. The obvious point to find is this one where it hits the side. Okay, so this I can just actually horizontally through and find that side. So I know the curve comes in and goes through this point and to a point there. I can find another point on this edge quite simply by going to the center line and going to where the horizontal line divided this rectangle in that corner, because I can easily do this as well, this side. Alright, okay, so I can do this side. So this point here translates to this point being there. Okay. So now I've got so many got so many lines, and let me just choose another color here for all the points. So I've got this point, this point, this point, this point. I would like something here as well because I'm going to go through and then I'm not sure where. I've got this point, and these 2 points should actually take me to the other side. Alright, so just something here, and then I will be confident to actually draw this line. So let's see what we've got. We can from the center point we can draw a line like this, but this will be so difficult to actually find. Well, I can actually do that. So from the center point, I just choose where I want to let this line hit actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my decision and take a line there that's on this rectangle as well. So I know it's there. You can already see something is just a little bit skewed. So I'm going to use the rectangle because this intersects the curve, this blue line, and the rectangle. Okay, so I can use the rectangle as well. Alright, so let's take this one over, and there's my point. So I'm going to come down, go through here, and then it's basically straight. So I can actually do this. There's no need for further construction. I'm going to take this pencil, okay, and try my best to do this one now. Okay, so keeping this one in mind, I can see this is a nice accelerated line going down and going in there. So let's try to have the same idea. Right, okay, so I can do a little bit better, but for the sake of time on this video, I'm just going to leave it as it is. And yeah, there you can see you can actually have this line duplicated. So now what I've did is I've used all the tools that we have, all these techniques, and I've taken a curve and the bounding box, and I found all these points on this curve and translated it to this side, and then I just filled in the rest. Alright, so what you can do in 2D, you can do in 3D. So if I have a 2-point perspective now, right, and those lines goes to vanishing point, and let's say this was our first half. Okay, now if I just want yes, okay. So you can actually subdivide this and find this exact curve and take it into perspective. But yes, now what I can do is I can take the divisions of this rectangle, right, find center, this goes back to vanishing point, take this line, shorten this line, and then I just do exactly what I just showed you guys, and I find all these points. So just look for the divisions, for the divisions that naturally occurred, like this one. So this was just divided in half. So let's just divide that one in half. You don't have to think too much. You just have to find. So there's a point, okay, and it's on that line. So there's the line. So I just have to go back in perspective, right? And there's my first point. And when you have enough points, okay, then you actually do the line. Okay, so this line is going to be this method. Okay, so you're going to do the crossover thing, find center, go through. Alright, so this point starts there. And you will be surprised to see how this looks in for shortened view. So this is very important to calculate this actually correctly. Okay, so that was that for these tools and these lessons. I wanted to talk about the XYZ system for a while, but I will probably do that in the next video and keep this video short. Like 32 minutes in is already a long time. Alright, so okay guys, hope this was helpful. Something that you guys can play and pause the whole time. And yes, if you didn't understand anything, I had 4 videos that I made on the fundamentals of perspective or understanding the scene. Part 1 to 4 will give you a little bit more information on this in depth. Alright, there you go. Have a nice weekend and see you in the next video.